What if the next coin you find isn't worth 25 cents, but far more to the right collector? Hidden among everyday change are coins with unusual conditions, rare minting mistakes, and details most people never notice. Some become valuable because of rarity, others because of history, and sometimes one tiny mark can change everything. So before you spend another coin, look closer. Thank you for your precious time and incredible support. Let's begin the hunt. Imagine finding a quarter in your pocket that looks completely ordinary until you notice one tiny letter beside George Washington's portrait. That little P could be the beginning of a much deeper story. Not because every 1999 Connecticut quarter is rare or worth a fortune, but because some examples can become surprisingly desirable when exceptional condition, genuine mint errors, or unusual varieties enter the picture. The 1999 P Connecticut State Quarter was born during one of the most important moments in modern American coin collecting, and today it remains a fascinating piece for anyone who knows what details to look for. The year 1999 was the final year before America entered a new millennium. Technology was rapidly changing everyday life, the internet was expanding, and Americans were preparing for the uncertainty surrounding the year 2000. At the same time, the United States Mint was beginning something that would completely change the way ordinary people looked at pocket change, the 50-state quarters program. 5 states were honored during the first year, and Connecticut became the 5th and final release of 1999. When the Connecticut quarter entered circulation on October 12, 1999, it wasn't simply another quarter. It represented the closing chapter of the program's historic first year. The reverse design tells a story that reaches much further back than 1999. At its center stands the famous charter oak, an enormous white oak connected with one of Connecticut's most important colonial legends. According to the traditional story, when British authorities demanded Connecticut's charter in 1687, the document was hidden inside the hollow of the great oak. The tree eventually fell in 1856, but its symbolism survived. By placing the charter oak on millions of quarters, the mint transformed an old historical legend into something people could carry in their pockets every day. Around the tree are the inscriptions Connecticut, the charter oak, 1788, 1999, and EPLUOBUSUNUM. The obverse features George Washington with Liberty, In God We Trust, United States of America, and $quarter. Now look closely at Washington's portrait. Near the lower right side is a tiny letter P that is the Philadelphia Mint mark, and it identifies the coin as a 1999 P issue. More than 688 million Connecticut quarters were struck at Philadelphia, meaning this is absolutely not a rare coin simply because it carries a P, but coin collecting has never been only about the original mintage. The real question is how many examples survived in exceptional condition, and how many contain something genuinely unusual. The 1999 P Connecticut quarter has the standard copper-nickel-clad construction used for circulating quarters of the period. It weighs about 5.67 grams, measures approximately 24.3 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge. Its outer layers are composed primarily of copper and nickel, surrounding a copper core. In your hand, it feels like an ordinary quarter, but under magnification, the details become much more interesting. Collectors examine the rims, lettering, date, mint mark, Washington's portrait, and the branches and lettering surrounding the charter oak. Even tiny differences can become important when determining whether a coin is simply worn, damaged, or genuinely unusual. And this is where many collectors make a mistake. A strange-looking coin does not automatically mean a valuable mint error. Connecticut quarters can show forms of doubling, weak strikes, die deterioration, scratches, or machine-related distortions that may appear dramatic under magnification. A genuine doubled die is different from ordinary machine doubling, and collectors should not assume that every second-looking edge around a letter represents a major variety. Reliable references, comparison with known examples, and professional examination are far more important than internet claims promising enormous values. Genuine mint errors, however, can be collectible. Major off-center strikes, clipped planchets, dramatic die cracks, and other authenticated production errors may attract premiums depending on their severity and appearance. The key word is authenticated. A coin damaged after leaving the mint is not the same thing as a coin that was incorrectly produced at the mint. This distinction can mean the difference between an interesting damaged quarter and a legitimate numismatic error. Condition may be even more important for an ordinary 1999p Connecticut quarter. A circulated example with noticeable wear is generally worth little more than face value. Uncirculated examples can bring modest premiums, while exceptionally preserved certified coins can become much more interesting. Professional grading companies, such as PCGS and NGC, assign numerical grades based on factors including wear, marks, strike, luster, and overall preservation. The difference between a moderately high mint state grade and an extremely high grade can be significant because truly pristine examples are much harder to find. Auction records demonstrate just how dramatically exceptional condition can change the picture. Ordinary Connecticut quarters are common, but certified high-grade pieces have sold for considerably more than face value. Documented PCGS and NGC results show that some MS-66 and MS-68 examples have brought prices ranging from several dollars to hundreds of dollars, with certain exceptional historical sales reaching considerably higher. These results should not be interpreted as the normal value of a 1999p Connecticut quarter. They represent unusual certified coins, and today's market can be very different from older auction results. So if you discover one, what should you do? First, don't clean it. Don't polish it, scrub it, or use chemicals to make it shine. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surface and may reduce collector value. Handle the coin by its edges and place it in a proper protective holder. If you notice unusual doubling, an apparent mint error, or exceptionally strong preservation, photograph both sides and compare the coin with trustworthy numismatic references. If the potential value justifies the expense, professional authentication, and grading through a service, such as PCGS or NGC, can provide much greater confidence. And if the coin turns out to be genuinely special, there are several legitimate ways to sell it. Established coin dealers, reputable numismatic auction houses, and recognized online marketplaces can all be options, but never confuse an online asking price with an actual selling price. A seller can list an ordinary quarter for thousands of dollars, but that does not mean anyone is willing to pay it. Real market value comes from comparable coins that have actually sold, especially coins with the same grade, certification, variety, or error. The greatest mystery of the 1999p Connecticut quarter is therefore not that every coin is secretly valuable. It is that a coin produced in enormous numbers can still contain a tiny difference that separates an ordinary piece of change from a collector-worthy specimen. In 1999, the Charter Oak became part of America's pocket change, carrying with it a story of history, independence, and one of the most successful coin programs ever created. Most of these quarters were spent without a second thought, but some survived in remarkable condition, and others may contain legitimate minting abnormalities waiting to be recognized. So the next time you see that small P on a 1999 Connecticut quarter, don't immediately spend it, and don't immediately believe every claim that it is worth a fortune either. Look closer, examine the surfaces, study the details, check the grade, verify the error, because in coin collecting, the difference between an ordinary quarter and a truly desirable one can sometimes be hidden in a detail so small that millions of people simply never notice it. But this remarkable coin is only the beginning. Now let's move to our second coin, where the story becomes even more fascinating. The Connecticut quarter showed us how an ordinary piece of pocket change can carry a story far greater than its face value. But as our countdown continues, we leave the forests of the Charter Oak behind and travel much farther south, to a place where turquoise water, coral reefs, and centuries of history meet. Here, the story becomes even more intriguing because this next quarter represents a United States territory rather than one of the 50 states. It was created during the final year of the original 50-state quarters era, when the Mint expanded the program to honor the District of Columbia and the 5 United States territories. And hidden among those millions of coins is the 2009 United States Virgin Islands Quarter, a coin that may look ordinary at first glance, but carries an entire Caribbean landscape on its reverse. By 2009, America was going through a dramatically different moment from the excitement of 1999. The country was dealing with the aftermath of the financial crisis, a new presidential administration had taken office, and economic uncertainty was affecting families across the nation. At the same time, the United States Mint was completing the final chapter of its hugely successful state quarters program. Congress had authorized 6 additional quarter designs for 2009, representing the District of Columbia and 5 United States territories. The United States Virgin Islands became one of those final issues. Its quarter was officially released on September 28, 2009, bringing the familiar quarter-dollar format together with symbols deeply connected to the islands. The reverse design immediately transports you somewhere else. At the center is an outline of the 3 principal islands of the United States Virgin Islands, St. Croix, St. John, and St. Thomas. A bananaquit bird appears in the design, along with a yellow-orange plum and a small silhouette of the islands. Below and around the imagery are the inscriptions United States Virgin Islands, 2009, and EPLUBUSUNUM. The design was created by Joseph F. Menner and engraved by Joseph F. Menner and Charles L. Vickers. Instead of showing a famous building or historical monument, the quarter captures something more geographic and natural, the identity of the islands themselves. It is a reminder that American history does not stop at the mainland coastline. The story behind the territory reaches back centuries. The islands were originally inhabited by indigenous peoples long before European powers arrived. Over time, European colonization reshaped the region, and Denmark controlled the islands that later became the United States Virgin Islands. In 1917, the United States purchased the Danish West Indies for $25 million in gold, and the islands became an American territory. That history makes this quarter more than a simple commemorative design. Every time the 3 islands appear on the reverse, the coin quietly carries a story of exploration, colonial rule, transfer of sovereignty, and American territorial history. Now turn the coin over and look at the familiar obverse. George Washington faces left, surrounded by liberty, in God we trust, United States of America, and quarter dollar. But if you're searching for the specific coin in our countdown, there is one small detail you need to find. Near Washington's lower right side is the letter D. That tiny mark identifies the Denver Mint. The 2009 United States Virgin Islands Quarter had a reported mintage of 41 million pieces. Compared with some enormous state quarter mintages, that is relatively small, but it still does not make every 2009 Virgin Islands Quarter rare. This is an important distinction. Low mintage can create collector interest, but scarcity in the marketplace depends on how many examples survive, in what condition, and whether any have genuinely unusual characteristics. Physically, this quarter follows the standard specifications of modern United States circulating quarters. It is a copper-nickel-clad coin with a copper core, weighs approximately 5.67 grams, measures about 24.26 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge. Its thickness is approximately 1.75 millimeters. The outer layers are primarily a copper-nickel alloy, giving the coin its familiar silvery appearance, while the copper center can sometimes be seen along the edge. Under normal lighting, it may look like countless other quarters. Under magnification, however, the tiny details become the beginning of the hunt. Collectors inspect the D-Mint mark, lettering, rims, date, Washington's portrait, the islands, bananaquit, and other design elements for signs of unusual striking. But there is a reason experienced collectors are cautious. Modern quarters can develop marks and distortions simply from years of circulation. A damaged rim can resemble an off-center strike. Scratches can look like die cracks. Machine doubling can be mistaken for a doubled die. Even discoloration can create the illusion that the metal itself is unusual. The important question is not whether something looks strange, it is whether the characteristic can be traced to the minting process. Genuine mint errors are created during production, while post-mint damage happens afterward. That difference is fundamental to determining collectible value. There are legitimate error possibilities to watch for on a 2009 Virgin Islands quarter, including genuine off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, broad strikes, and other recognized striking or planchet errors. But there is no responsible basis for claiming that every unusual-looking example is a major rarity. A real error should be evaluated by its physical characteristics, and for valuable pieces, authenticated by a professional grading service. Collectors should also be careful with claims about dramatic doubling. Not every doubled-looking letter represents a valuable double die variety. Comparing the coin with reliable references is essential before spending money based on an online photograph or an exaggerated valuation. Then comes the factor that can transform the value of an otherwise common coin: condition. A circulated 2009 United States Virgin Islands quarter will generally be worth around face value, and many uncirculated examples remain affordable. But pristine coins become much more interesting because modern coins can suffer tiny contact marks almost immediately after striking. A coin that survives with brilliant luster, sharp details, clean surfaces, and minimal marks can achieve a high mint state grade. This is where PCGS and NGC become important. Both professional grading services evaluate coins according to established standards, considering preservation, strike quality, surface marks, luster, and overall eye appeal. At the highest grades, seemingly microscopic differences can separate one coin from another. That does not mean a high grade automatically creates a fortune. Realistic values depend on current demand, grade, certification, population, and actual sales. Ordinary circulated pieces are generally worth their face value. Uncirculated examples may sell for modest premiums, while certified high-grade specimens can bring more when collectors compete for exceptionally preserved examples. Genuine major mint errors can command substantially larger premiums, but the error must be real, desirable, and properly attributed. The safest way to understand the market is to examine recent completed sales of comparable coins rather than trusting dramatic prices attached to unsold internet listings. And if you think you've found something special, preservation begins immediately. Do not polish the coin. Do not scrub away discoloration. Do not use household chemicals or abrasive materials. Cleaning can permanently alter the original surface and may destroy the very characteristics collectors want to preserve. Hold the coin by its edges, keep it in a suitable non-damaging holder, and avoid unnecessary handling. If you suspect a mint error, photograph both sides and record the coin's weight and measurements. For a potentially valuable specimen, professional authentication and certification through PCGS or NGC can provide a much stronger foundation for a future sale. The coin eventually proves valuable, selling it should be approached just as carefully. Reputable local coin dealers, established numismatic auction houses, and recognized online marketplaces can provide legitimate options. For a certified high-grade coin or major error, auction platforms specializing in rare coins may expose the piece to serious collectors, but always compare actual completed sales. An online listing asking $5,000 does not mean the coin is worth $5,000. Market value comes from what buyers have actually paid for comparable examples under similar conditions. And perhaps that is what makes the 2009 United States Virgin Islands quarter so fascinating. It was designed to circulate, not to sit behind glass. Millions were struck to serve an everyday purpose, yet each one carries the outline of islands separated from the continental United States by hundreds of miles of ocean. The coin connects modern American currency with Caribbean history, indigenous heritage, European colonization, the 1917 transfer of the islands, and the final chapter of one of the most ambitious coin programs ever attempted by the United States Mint. Most people who received this quarter probably saw nothing more than 25 cents, but collectors see something different. They see the possibility of exceptional preservation. They see the tiny D mint mark. They see the details of the banana quit and the islands. They know that a legitimate mint error, an unusually high grade, or an exceptionally attractive specimen can change the story. And that is the real lesson of this coin. Rarity is not simply about how many were made. Sometimes it is about how few survive in the exact condition collectors want, and whether anyone recognizes the difference before the coin disappears back into circulation. Now that we've uncovered the secrets of this coin, it's time to move on to coin number 3, where an even rarer story awaits. The United States Virgin Islands quarter took us from the familiar streets of American commerce to the Caribbean, proving that a small piece of change can carry an entire landscape and centuries of history. But now our countdown takes a dramatic turn. We leave the islands behind and travel to a place where 2 rivers meet, mountains surround a historic town, and one violent event helped push an already divided nation toward war. This is coin number 3, the 2016 D. Harper's Ferry National Historical Park Quarter. It may look like an ordinary Washington quarter, but its reverse carries a story far greater than its 25-cent face value. The 2016 Harper's Ferry Quarter was part of the America the Beautiful Quarters program, the successor to the famous State Quarters series. The program continued the tradition of placing important American locations on circulating coins. For West Virginia, the chosen site was Harper's Ferry National Historical Park. The quarter was released in 2016, a year when America was once again looking backward and forward at the same time. The country was approaching a major presidential election, technology was transforming daily life, and the Mint was continuing a long-running effort to bring national parks and historic places directly into people's pockets. But Harper's Ferry was not chosen simply because it was beautiful. Its location at the meeting of the Potomac and Shenandoah rivers made it strategically important for transportation, industry, and military purposes. During the 19th century, the United States Armory at Harper's Ferry produced firearms, giving the town national importance. Then came October 1859, when abolitionist John Brown and his followers attacked the Federal Armory in an attempt to seize weapons and inspire an uprising against slavery. The raid failed, but its impact was enormous. Brown was captured, tried, and executed, while the confrontation intensified the political crisis that would eventually lead to the American Civil War. That history is quietly reflected on the coin. The reverse presents an elevated view of Harper's Ferry, with historic buildings surrounded by the dramatic landscape where the rivers and mountains meet. The inscriptions Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, 2016, and EPLUBUSUNUM identify the location and year. The design was created by Richard Masters and sculpted by Joseph F. Menner. Turn the coin over and George Washington appears on the obverse, surrounded by Liberty, In God We Trust, and United States of America. And near the lower right side of Washington's portrait is the tiny letter D. That single letter tells collectors that this particular circulation strike was produced at the Denver Mint. The D Mint mark is important for identification, but it does not automatically make the coin rare. The 2016 D Harper's Ferry Quarter was produced in large numbers, so most examples are common. This is where the real treasure hunt begins. Instead of asking, is every 2016 D Harper's Ferry Quarter valuable? Collectors ask a much better question: what makes this particular example different? That difference could be exceptional preservation, a legitimate mint error, or another recognized collectible characteristic. Physically, the coin follows the standard specifications of modern United States quarters. It is a copper-nickel-clad coin with a copper core, weighs approximately 5.67 grams, measures about 24.26 millimeters across, and is roughly 1.75 millimeters thick. Its edge is reeded with a series of fine grooves. The familiar silvery surface comes from its clad construction, while the copper core can sometimes be noticed along the edge. Collectors examining an unusual example may use magnification, a precise scale, and careful comparison with normal coins to determine whether something truly unusual is present. And this is where patience becomes more valuable than excitement. A strange-looking quarter is not automatically a rare error. Coins can suffer scratches, dents, rim damage, discoloration, and other forms of post-mint damage after spending years in circulation. Machine doubling can also resemble a valuable doubled die. Genuine mint errors are different because they originate during the manufacturing process. Collectible errors can include off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, die cracks, struck-through errors, and other recognized production mistakes. But the specific characteristics must be examined carefully. A dramatic claim without evidence is not enough. Doubling deserves particular caution. If letters or numbers appear to have a second edge, do not immediately assume you've discovered a rare variety. Machine-related doubling can create similar appearances, and many internet claims confuse ordinary striking effects with genuine doubled dies. The safest approach is to compare the coin with trusted numismatic references, and if the potential value is significant, have the piece professionally examined. Then comes condition, the factor that can quietly transform an ordinary quarter into a collector's prize. A circulated 2016 D. Harper's Ferry quarter will generally be worth around face value. Many uncirculated examples remain affordable as well, but exceptionally preserved coins are a different story. Modern quarters can acquire tiny contact marks almost immediately after striking, so coins with strong luster, sharp details, clean fields, and minimal marks can become much more desirable in high grades. This is where professional grading from PCGS or NGC can make a major difference. These companies evaluate factors such as wear, surface marks, strike quality, luster, and overall eye appeal before assigning a numerical grade. A high grade does not automatically make a common coin extremely valuable, but certified top-grade examples can attract collectors who want the finest specimens available. The market also changes significantly between grades, so the value of an MS-65 coin should never simply be assumed from the price of an MS-67 or MS-68 example. Realistic values are therefore important. Most circulated examples remain close to face value. Attractive uncirculated pieces may bring modest premiums, while certified high-grade coins can command more depending on the grade and current demand. Genuine major mint errors can be worth substantially more, but only when the error is real, desirable, and properly authenticated. The safest way to establish value is to study recent completed sales of comparable coins, rather than relying on high asking prices found online. If you believe you have found an exceptional example, preservation should come first. Never polish the coin, scrub it, or use chemicals to make the surface shine. Cleaning can permanently damage the original finish and may reduce collector value. Handle the coin by its edges and keep it in an appropriate protective holder. If investigating a suspected error, photograph both sides, record the weight, and carefully compare the coin with normal examples. If the potential value justifies the expense, professional certification through PCGS or NGC can provide reliable documentation of authenticity and grade. Selling should be approached with the same caution. Reputable coin dealers, established numismatic auction houses, and recognized online marketplaces are legitimate options. A normal circulated quarter does not need an expensive selling process, but an authenticated major error or high-grade certified specimen may benefit from being offered to serious collectors. Always compare actual completed sales. A coin listed online for thousands of dollars is not proof that it is worth thousands. What matters is what comparable coins have actually sold for. And perhaps the greatest treasure hidden in this quarter is not its market price at all. It is the story. A tiny copper-nickel coin carries the image of a town where rivers meet, where an armory once manufactured weapons, and where John Brown's raid became one of the sparks that intensified America's growing crisis over slavery. Most people who encounter this quarter will simply see another 25 cents. A collector sees an opportunity to look closer. The D mint mark tells us where it was made. The reverse tells us where the story happened. The condition tells us how carefully the coin survived. And a genuine mint error, if one is present, could completely change its collectible significance. Most examples will remain ordinary, and that's exactly what makes the search exciting, because valuable discoveries are rarely announced with a warning. Sometimes they are hiding quietly among ordinary coins, waiting for someone to stop, turn one over, and look just a little closer. And if you thought this coin was extraordinary, wait until you see our final coin. Let's move to the last chapter of today's countdown. Harper's Ferry showed us how a small piece of metal can preserve the memory of a place where American history changed forever. But now we have reached the final chapter of our countdown, and this time the journey takes us away from rivers, armories, and historic buildings and into a landscape that seems endless. Tall grass moves with the wind, the Flint Hills stretch toward the horizon, and a bison stands as a symbol of a world that once covered enormous portions of the American Great Plains. This is the 2020 Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve Quarter from Kansas, and its story may be one of the most meaningful in our entire search. The quarter was released in 2020 as part of the America the Beautiful Quarters program, which continued the tradition of honoring important American places through circulating coins. The Kansas design represents Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve near Strong City in the Flint Hills. This landscape protects one of the largest remaining areas of tallgrass prairie in the world. Long before the quarter existed, the Great Plains supported vast ecosystems, enormous herds of bison, and generations of indigenous peoples who lived with and depended upon the land. Later, settlement, agriculture, and cattle ranching transformed much of the prairie. What remains today is a reminder of how dramatically an American landscape can change and how important preservation can become. The reverse of the coin captures that story with remarkable simplicity. A bison stands in the foreground while tall prairie grass extends across the landscape. The scene is open, peaceful, and almost timeless. Around it appear the inscriptions TLGASS Prairie, Kansas, 2020, and EPLUBUSUNUM. The design was created by Emily Damstra and sculpted by Joseph F. Menner. Instead of showing a famous building or battlefield, the Mint chose to show a living landscape. The result is a coin that feels less like a monument and more like a window into nature. Turn the quarter over and George Washington returns on the obverse. The familiar inscriptions Liberty, In God We Trust, United States of America, and $quarter surround his portrait. Beneath Washington is the small letter D, identifying the Denver Mint, but that little d should not be mistaken for proof of rarity. Millions of 2020 Tallgrass Prairie Quarters were produced, meaning most examples encountered today are ordinary circulation coins. The real collector's question is not whether the date and mint mark are rare, but whether the individual coin has exceptional condition, a genuine mint era, or another recognized collectible characteristic. The physical specifications are those of a standard modern United States quarter. The coin is made from copper-nickel-clad material with a copper core. It weighs approximately 5.67 grams, measures about 24.26 millimeters in diameter, and is roughly 1.75 millimeters thick. Its edge is reeded with fine grooves. In ordinary light, it has the familiar silvery appearance of modern clad quarters, but careful collectors know that the smallest physical details can sometimes reveal something unusual. That is where the real treasure hunt begins. A strange-looking coin is not automatically a valuable error. Modern quarters can suffer scratches, dents, rim damage, discoloration, and other problems after leaving the mint. A damaged rim can resemble an off-center strike, while machine doubling can be mistaken for a valuable double die. Genuine mint errors originate during the manufacturing process, and legitimate examples can include off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, die cracks, struck-through errors, and other production abnormalities. But each suspected error must be judged by evidence, not excitement. Doubling deserves special caution. If letters, numbers, or design elements appear to have a second outline, do not immediately assume the coin is rare. Machine-related doubling and other striking effects can create similar appearances. A genuine double die has specific characteristics that should be compared with trusted references. When a suspected variety could be worth serious money, professional examination is far safer than relying on an online photograph or an exaggerated social media claim. Then comes condition. This may be the most important factor for an otherwise ordinary 2020 quarter. A circulated example will generally be worth only its face value, and many uncirculated coins remain affordable. But a modern quarter preserved in exceptional condition can attract much greater collector interest. Look for strong original luster, sharp details, clean fields, undamaged rims, and very few contact marks. A coin can appear perfect to the naked eye and still reveal tiny imperfections under magnification, which is why the highest grades are difficult to achieve. Professional grading services, such as PCGS and NGC, can help establish the condition and authenticity of a significant specimen. Their graders examine factors such as surface preservation, strike quality, luster, and overall eye appeal before assigning a numerical grade. Certification can be especially valuable when dealing with high-grade coins or suspected major errors. However, a high grade does not automatically mean a fortune. Market value depends on the grade, certification, population, collector demand, and actual sales. For realistic expectations, most 2020D Tallgrass Prairie Quarters are not worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Circulated examples generally remain around face value, while ordinary uncirculated pieces may bring modest premiums. Certified high-grade examples can sell for more, particularly when collectors compete for exceptionally preserved specimens. Genuine major mint errors can bring stronger premiums, but the exact value depends on the type, severity, appearance, and authentication of the error. The best way to estimate value is to study completed sales of comparable coins rather than relying on inflated asking prices. If you think your quarter is special, preservation should come first. Never polish it, scrub it, or use chemicals to make it shine. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surface and reduce collector appeal. Handle the coin by its edges and store it in a suitable protective holder. If you suspect an error, photograph both sides, record the weight, and compare the coin carefully with reliable references. For an important specimen, professional authentication and grading through PCGS or NGC can provide stronger evidence of what you actually have. When selling, serious collectors generally look toward established coin dealers, reputable numismatic auction houses, certified coin marketplaces, and recognized online platforms. A normal circulated quarter is rarely worth an expensive selling process, but a certified high-grade specimen or authenticated major error may deserve exposure to specialized buyers. Always compare recent completed sales. An online seller asking thousands of dollars proves nothing by itself. What matters is what buyers have actually paid for comparable coins. But perhaps the greatest value of this final quarter cannot be measured in dollars. Look at the bison again. Behind that small image is an enormous story of the American prairie, indigenous history, wildlife, ranching, environmental change, and preservation. A landscape that once seemed almost limitless was gradually transformed, yet portions of it survived. Today, that story has been pressed into a coin small enough to disappear inside a pocket. And that is what makes coin collecting so powerful. You are not simply collecting metal, you are collecting moments. One quarter can carry a colonial legend. Another can represent a distant American territory. Another can preserve the memory of a town caught in the events leading toward war. And this final coin carries the quiet story of a landscape that survived long enough to be protected and remembered. Most of these quarters will remain ordinary money, and that is perfectly fine. The excitement comes from knowing what to look for. Check the date, find the mint mark, study the surfaces, look for genuine errors, compare unusual characteristics with reliable references, and never let an exaggerated internet claim replace careful research. Because the next discovery may not be sitting inside a famous collection. It may be hiding in a drawer, an old coin jar, a forgotten pocket, or a box that has not been opened for years. You might already own a coin whose story you have never noticed. So if this journey through American coin history entertained you, don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more rare coin discoveries, valuable varieties, mint errors, and hidden stories. And before you walk away, take another look through your own collection. Turn those coins over, check those dates, examine those tiny mint marks, because the next rare or fascinating coin could already be waiting in your home, and all it may need is one curious person to notice it.